have a few things from the board. So I'm Jackie Bieber. I'm the vice president of the Synodical Women's Board. And one of the first things is to mark your calendar, and I know that it's in that document that you have the bulletin from the meeting, but that would be for the 2025 Synodical Women's Convention. It's May 3rd at Holy Cross Lutheran Church in Oakdale. So put that on your calendar, and if you have ideas for speakers, you can get a hold of Robin or Becky to let them know. And Katie's fund, the endowment that we have, has the area for leadership development, global connections, and living theology. And we're also taking ideas on that for any of those 3 subjects that you think would be helpful for us to donate to. Another event that's coming up is the Triennial Convention. So just like we were in Phoenix last year, we're going to be a lot closer. So in 2026, we're going to be in Des Moines, and that's only 2 hours. Is it 2 hours south or 4 hours south? Well, anyway, it's not too far. You just get on 35 and drive south. And we also have an interim executive for the board, Jennifer Hockenberry. And so she is available for consulting and talking to her about the organization. And then on the bulletin there, Playbill, you have something about the clusters needing membership. And so I think that's always going on, but we need a nominating committee for the 2025 convention. If any of you would want to be on the nominating committee, you can come and talk to me. We, I don't know, they have 2 or 3 meetings where they get together and talk about who to nominate for the next year. And finally, we are looking for somebody to be the historian. Missy Struve was doing it, and she's decided that she wants to go visit her granddaughter, I think it's a granddaughter, in Oregon more often than not. And so we don't have anybody for that. And Kathy Frost continues to be the Bridges editor. And she doesn't ever really come out from her office, but we can all wish her a good thank you because she produces a lot for the bulletin or for the newsletter. So that's all. Thank you.
All right, can you hear me? Can you hear me well? No? Okay, how about now? How about now? Yes, can you hear me now? Okay, I just want to make sure I know I have a quiet voice, so I want to make sure the microphone is working. It's great to be with you all today. Thank you so much for the invitation, Naomi. I'm happy that we made the connection through Sue originally. If any of you were at the regional gathering, I was there this spring, but I'm happy to be with you all again or for the first time. So how many of you know about Shobi's table? All right, this is good, this is good. So some of what I'll share today, maybe you've already heard, but I hope that you also get some new information as well. Okay, great. If you want to go to the next slide, yeah. All right, well, what I want to begin with today is the question that I always get. Who is Shobi? Who is Shobi? Anybody know? Yeah, I didn't know either until I got the job. So Shobi is a minor character in the King David story. And I'm sure you all know who King David is. If you want to go to the next slide. So it comes from 2 Samuel 17. This is in a period of David's life that he's older, and he is in a very complicated time in his life. His son Absalom has gotten power hungry, and he wants to usurp the throne. And he has run his own father out of the kingdom, and David is on the run. David is on the run with some of his men, and he is hiding in the wilderness for his own life from his own son. And no, go back. So I'm going to read this. So when David came to Mahanaim, Shobi son of Nahash of Rabbah of the Ammonites, and Machir son of Amiel from Lodabar, and Barzillai the Gileadite from Rogelim, brought bedding and bowls and articles of pottery. They also brought wheat and barley, flour and roasted grain, beans and lentils, honey and curds, sheep and cheese from cow's milk for David and his people to eat. For they said, the people have become exhausted and hungry and thirsty in the wilderness. Will you pray with me? Oh, Jesus, thank you for a new day. God, thank you for days to gather together, to be together at table, to be with old friends and meet new friends. God, thank you for what this community represents, for it being a beacon of hospitality. God, bless this group in all of their efforts as they reach out to one another. God, help us all to embody hospitality as best as we can. In your most holy name we pray. Amen. So just as Shobi was hospitality to King David in the wilderness, we at Shobi's table are hospitality in the urban wilderness. We know that it does not look like wilderness some days because of all of the asphalt and all of the buildings and all of the cars, but there are so many ways that this place that we live in has such a wilderness feel. And so many of those wildernesses you are already very familiar with. So the two wildernesses that Shobi's table is trying to attend to is the one of hunger and the one of loneliness. So you all know that even in a city, there are people who are hungry. And there are definitely people who are lonely, even though we tend to live shoulder to shoulder, or at least house next to house. So we are trying to tend to that. So the history of Shobi's table, we've been around for actually quite a while. So I am not the first leader of Shobi's table. It originated at First Lutheran in St. Paul. I don't know, is anyone familiar with the East Side and kind of how, yeah, East Siders maybe. So, the East Side has been a place of need often, and a place of a lot of really innovative tending to that need. And one of those ways, more than 10 years ago, one of the interns at Faith Lutheran was at the Wellness Wednesdays, which was their program to have resources for folks who were on the margins. And there was all sorts of things, but like lawyers, there were nurses, and there was also food. And this intern noticed that there was this growing community, and he thought, oh, how wonderful to have a congregation come out of that, a church come out of that, for people who are experiencing life on the margins together. And so he started to write all the paperwork out for a mission development site. A mission development is how the ELCA, our wider church, starts new churches and new ministries. And so there was a mission development site that was begun, and they called them, they had yet to call themselves the Food Truck Church. Before that, they always gathered around a meal, which I don't know if you've noticed this trend in church history, but there's a lot of around the table from the very beginning. That's kind of a lot of our identity, is being around the table together. So as they gathered around the table, they started to imagine how they could take their little tiny burgeoning ministry mobile, because they had all experienced mobile lives. So how could they reach out further by being mobile, by the ministry itself being mobile? So they thought of a food truck. And by the grace of God, there's no other way. By the grace of God, they were given a food truck. I mean, how amazing is that? A food truck is worth anywhere from $40,000 to $120,000. And the food truck that Shobi's table was given was about $100,000. they had met up with another ministry that was doing things downtown, and at first they just borrowed the truck, and when that ministry had to fold, they gave it to them. What a huge gift. And I have to say, with a great gift often comes great responsibility. And so at that point in Shobi's Table life, they did not have the infrastructure to sustain it well. And so after about a couple of years, they had to be put on pause. And and I was really lucky because I was an intern at the time in the Twin Cities, and I got to volunteer with them while they were still the food truck church. And I got to kind of see how things were going. And then in 2018, after they had been put on pause, because I got to know the Synod, they asked me if I would be interested, because my whole vocational journey has been to do food ministry. I had worked in kitchens, and I discerned my call to be a deacon because I knew that I was called into the service of kitchen work, to serve at the table. So in 2018, we became, you can go back. Sorry, when I look doesn't mean, I'll give you a wave. So in 2018, the Synod asked me to go to mission development training. And like I said, mission development is like the way you begin a new thing, right? And I thought that sounded really scary. So at first I said, no, thank you. But they kept asking, and they said, well, why don't you just try going to mission development training? And sometimes that's what it is. We push, and we're like, no, I don't want to. And then God is like, no, hear me out. It's like Jonah, right? You're just like, no. Then you're going into the belly of the whale, and then you see that God had a plan all along. And one of the ways that I was able to see the light was that I met somebody there at this mission development training who was putting together another pay-as-you-can cafe in Pennsylvania. And she was doing it amongst a network of pay-as-you-can cafes called One World Everybody Eats. And this group had a whole booklet on how to start one. And I thought, oh my gosh, here we are. Like here is the road ahead. Here, are we cutting out? There we go. Excuse me. Here is a way that we can move forward, a tried and true method. Let's do it. So in 2018, we restarted Shobi's Table as a pay-as-you-can cafe, and it's been history from there. Okay, go ahead. So we've been functioning as a pay-as-you-can cafe for the last 6 years, and this last year we were able to redo our mission and vision statements, so I'm going to read them for you. Shobi's Table is a common table where all are fed in body and soul. And we celebrate a just and merciful world where all have opportunity for good food and vibrant community. Go ahead. So there are a lot of places that are tending to the wildernesses of hunger and the wilderness of loneliness in this world and in this city. So what makes us unique? What sets us apart? You can go ahead. Well, there are a couple of things. So we are pay as you can. So that really means whatever you bring is enough. There are a lot of people who come to the food truck and don't have anything, but they get a meal. There are a lot of people who are excited and put the quarter that's in their pocket in, and that's enough. There are people who come and because they can, they pay 10 or 20 or 100. And that's how we make this work. That we're not just a meal program for poor people, but we need everyone at the table to make a pay-as-you-can cafe work. And this is one that always gets me really excited, because what if our whole society was pay-as-you-can? And what I mean is, what if what everyone had was enough to participate and get what they need? Can you imagine how we would all live so well if those who had nothing could still participate and have full life, and those who had enough or more, there was no hesitation. There was just giving. Next one, dignity. Dignity, so that means that we are going to treat you with respect, and we are going to treat you as a child of God. We are going to know in our hearts first that we are each children of God, and that everyone who comes to the food truck must be met with love, and it's got to be real. So I know there are many people who come up to the window and they're like, what is this? What is this? Are you sure it's free? And there's a lot of hesitation. But whoever's at the window has an opportunity to make that person feel like they can have whatever they need. That we see their humanity and we see their value. Go to the next one. Community. We are all about valuing, like, it's not just about me. Like, I used to be asked at the window, are you Shobi? And, I'd be like, no, I'm not Shobi, I'm Kari. But it kind of felt like Kari's table, because in the beginning, I had to do everything. But now it's so much of a community effort. Like, there's no way that Shobi exists without so many people helping and so many people coming to the table. We need everyone. Next. We're also very committed to environmental stewardship. So that means that every week we get a delivery of food that would have been thrown away. So we use primarily rescued food. And this comes through Twin Cities Food Justice, which is a great partnership we have. We don't have to pay anything. So other places that get stuff through Second Harvest still have to pay. But we are really privileged in that we get a lot of really good quality food, and it's for free. We are also committed to using compostable goods for all of our to-go materials, and also actually composting. So from start to finish, we are trying to make sure that our food waste is as low as possible. And so this is a really interesting one, because a lot of places that are meal programs for poor people, don't have that privilege to do that, because environmental stewardship is often something that only people of means can do, because sometimes it costs money to be an environmental steward, to buy compostable bags, to have the time to take care of compost. So this is a way that we can make sure that folks of all means have access to caring for creation. We are also very committed to from-scratch food. So most everything we make is from scratch, which I have to say requires a lot of energy. You all know what it's like to work in a kitchen at home for a big feast meal. We're cooking for anywhere from 300 to 400 meals every week. And that really is a lot of effort. But it's also a lot of love. For me to put my body into that work in the kitchen means that everyone who's going to eat there has really received the love from anyone who's had a hand in making those meals. And the last one that our values is that we are church. So I'm a deacon in the church, and I don't know if all of you know what a deacon is, but we are rostered leaders just like pastors, but instead of being called to word and sacrament and leading Sunday-based congregations, we are called to word and service. We are called to be the bridge between the church and the world, and to not only be the bridge, but to call people to be along that bridge, especially in works of service. And we get to be church in this way with our acts of service every day of the week. So if you go to church on a Sunday and you are fed at the table, well, if you come to Shobi's table anytime Monday through Friday, you are also being fed at the table where you are going to work at a kitchen counter, or if you are going to share a table with someone you might not necessarily have a meal with elsewhere. A story that let's go back one. Sorry. Sorry. One of the stories that I like to tell from last year, where it really shows that we are our church together, is that last year, Daily Work is another nonprofit that works out of the same building that we do, and they help people find jobs. And they're just a wonderful organization. And Julie, their leader, asked me in the summer, we've been wondering about having a Thanksgiving meal, and we were wondering if you might be interested in working with us. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. So it was the first year, it just felt like a trial effort. And whenever we've had a trial, like just like a first thing. I'm not really sure how many people are going to come. But about a week and a half before Thanksgiving, I had sent in that we were going to have a meal to the Ramsey County resource list. And because we usually tell them, when our meals are going to be. And they were just doing a Thanksgiving specific one. And so I get the printout back, and we are the only group that has an in-person meal in the whole Ramsey County area, at least on their list. Like there may have been other ones, but the only one that's actually on this resource list. And then the next day I get an inquiry from WCCO wanting to know about our meal and wanting to do a spotlight on it. And so they came with their TV cameras and they talked about it on WCCO a couple days before Thanksgiving. And when I thought we were going to serve about 100 meals, we ended up serving like over 200 that day. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful day to see so many different people. There were many immigrants there for whom Thanksgiving was a new concept, a new holiday, and we got to share that American tradition. But we also made sure that there was food there that, there was chicken and rice in addition to the turkey and stuffing, because we wanted to make sure that there was food that everyone had access to. Not everybody likes turkey. Not everybody likes stuffing, but there are many cultures that love chicken and rice and vegetables and salad. So that day, looking out, I got to see so many regulars from our food truck. I got to see so many new people, and it was just like this amazing moment of gratitude, because we even had a moment after the meal where we handed out a microphone, which was maybe kind of dangerous, but we shouted out, "Hey, how does everyone feel gratitude today? Today is a day of gratitude." And way in the back, Paul, who was a new regular for us and still is a regular to this day, shouted out, "I love Shobi's table." And it was just this moment of deep gratitude that I could feel in my body for the privilege of the work that we get to do. So what is the logistics that help this ministry do its thing? Well, one thing that I want to just talk a little bit about is I mentioned that we are part of the mission development group of the ELCA. That's how new ministries are started. But we have just been given a new category in an evangelism initiatives. And I don't know if you remember, but we're part of the ELCA. The first word is evangelical. And this is actually like the word that I would say most Lutherans are a little bit uncomfortable with. And that's okay. That's okay. We know that there's some cultural waves out there that feel kind of like the word evangelical has been co-opted by maybe some evangelicals. But at the same time, if we go back to what the root of that word really is, we still have access to it in such a powerful way. And it is sharing the good news. Sharing the good news. So evangelism doesn't need to be proselytizing, but it can be sharing a meal like we do. Next slide. We are what's called a Synod authorized outreach ministry of the ELCA in the St. Paul Area Synod. We love acronyms in this church. We just love them. I kind of want it to be more like names, like we're the Grace Initiative, but there's always all of these acronyms to remember. I can't always remember what they stand for, but here's all the words. But the point of this one is, like, we are church together. This is why it matters that we are a Synod ministry. Maybe Shobi's table could stand alone and try to figure out how to do it by itself, but it is so much more powerful when it's connected to the churches in this area, to women's groups like you. We are able to do so much more when there are more people connected. And so that's really the power of being a Synod ministry and part of the greater ELCA. One thing that makes us really unique is that, we are we look a lot like a nonprofit, but we are also this church ministry kind of thing. And so right now, there's not a whole lot of boxes that we fit in really neatly. But I find that exciting because Shobi's table gets to be a way that paves a new way to be church. I think a lot of people worry about the future of the church. We worry that it's dying out. And, I am here to say I do not believe that. I do not believe that the church is dying. I think the church is changing. I think the church is going to look a lot different in the future. But I am excited that Shobi's table gets to be a way that paves that forward. So we're learning a lot from how the nonprofit world works to get some logistics, new kinds of logistics to help us move forward. And then we're keeping ourselves rooted in the church for our purpose of sharing the good news. And we get to be this new third way. Over the last 6 years, we've experienced a lot of growth. When we started the Pay As You Can Cafe back in, we really restarted in 2018, but wasn't very much programming. So 2019, we had 2 sites and we were only serving twice a month. The reason that I did that was because I didn't want to get stuck in any ruts. I wanted to be able to shift if we learned what worked and what didn't. And that turned out to be actually really important. I don't know if you remember, but in 2020, there was this thing called the pandemic. And it was terrible. And alongside everyone else, we had to stop and pause and figure out a new way. One of the things that we had been doing a lot was catering in order to get income to help make the cafe work. And all of that just went away. All of that was just gone. But what we did see as soon as the pandemic really happened was hunger was laid bare. People were losing their jobs left and right. Grocery stores were not sure how to welcome people in to get food. Our food system was just on halting, what's happening. And we knew that we had to get back out there. So in March was the shutdown, and by April we were back out, and we were serving once a week on Fridays. And someone reached out to us wondering if we could serve in Frogtown, and so by May of 2020 we were serving twice a week. And that was wonderful. And then I think it was in 2021, we added back Tuesdays, which had been our original site. And so we were going gangbusters at 3 days a week. And then this past year, we added our 4th day. So we are now Tuesday through Friday serving lunch, with Monday being a prep day. This year has shown exponential growth that we were not quite prepared for. We were planning for an average of 200 meals a week, but I don't know if you remember what I said earlier, but our average has been closer to 350 every week. And so keeping up with that growth has been, we've had some growing pains for sure, but we're making it. For me, it's been like the loaves and fishes. There have been weeks where we have served over 100, and somehow I cooked for 80, and yet there was still enough for everyone to at least get something. How can I explain that except that the loaves and fishes is a real miracle that still happens? Last year, we also were spending about $1.66 on each meal, which includes all of the to-go materials. So it's mostly to-go materials, actually. We don't spend a whole lot on food. And that's extra, we get a whole bunch of produce for free, and then we buy a little meat, a little cheese, that kind of thing. And this year, with the growth of things, we have actually managed to spend $1.55 per meal. And that's been incredible to me. How is God helping to stretch every dollar that is given to us? It's amazing. So these are our sites. This is Tuesday at the Capitol, Wednesdays at Rice and Larpenteur. I'll have you pause on this one. This is our newest site, and I don't know if any one of you who know about this intersection, Rice and Larpenteur, but it's an intersection in St. Paul, I should say St. Paul, Roseville, Maplewood. Yeah, I think the three of those come together at that intersection. And I think a lot of people who live around there have felt that intersection has been forgotten over time. And it's a place where the lamplighter used to be, which I won't give you a lot of details about what that business was, but by the grace of God, it was closed down 2 years ago. And so many good things of resurrection have been happening there, and we get to be part of that ministry of resurrection there. So it's been a hugely wonderful sight to have. Go next. So this is Thursdays in Frogtown. You'll see we park in a lot of parking lots. Next one. And then on Fridays, we are either at Allianz Field, the big soccer field at Snelling and University, or we're over by Bethlehem Lutheran Church, which is right across the street. So how does it work? We are a staff of 5 people. Right now, we're about 4. We'll be having an opening in the new year. There's 6 board members, and there's the wider community, and there's a growing group of volunteers. I invite you into so many places of this. I wonder if you would be excited about volunteering. I wonder if you would be excited about joining our board. And always, if you want to come to lunch. All right, you can go to the next one. This summer, we also had Synod interns. Now, another great way that we get to be churched together through the Synod is that the Synod has a program for summer interns. And I have to tell you, it was amazing this year. Like 18-year-olds who were so excited to get into the kitchen and go serve at the truck. And they tell me at the beginning, like, we're not very churchy people, but they put their heart into it. This was young people at their best. They were so excited and happy to be there. Like, they might not feel like they could ever be an evangelist, but they were embodying evangelism like nobody's business. So what a joy it was to have them. Go to the next one. How does it work? Income. So we have a very, very diverse stream of income. This is kind of hearkening back to that, how are we nonprofit and how are we church? So a church's budget looks a lot like you have pledging members, right? And once a year, or maybe a couple times a year, you get a letter in the mail that says how much are you going to pledge for the year. Well, we're never going to have membership that can pledge to cover our whole budget. So we have to be really intentional about how we diversify our income. So this is how so donations for sure is the biggest percentage. And we are hoping over the next 5 years to get that to 50% of our budget. We also depend on grants, which are hard to get. Grant writing is hard work, and it's also, we've learned it's a thing about relationship building with organizations that are granting bodies. We're really grateful for when churches give us money. What a gift to not have to apply for something, but to just have a church body give us a check like that. It's huge. You'll notice, so PAYC is Pay As You Can Cafe. So that's, we plan for that to be 5% of our budget. In reality, it's about 1%. And then 15% comes from catering. And that's really where, where it's a privilege to be able to share this truck with other places. A lot of churches would like catering, bring the big blue food truck to our event. And that's really helpful for us, and also a great way for us to share our message with other people. Next slide. So whenever things get overwhelming for me, I really actually love thinking about the future. I love dreaming about where we can go and how we can get there. So here are a couple dreams for us for the next several years. One thing is we are hoping to add another meal, but to be more intentional about how it incorporates spiritual care. So we are hoping to start a supper church program in the next year or so. We know that this will only be successful the more people we have supporting it. And so we're hoping to grow our donor base and our volunteer base. So if you are interested in giving, I would be so happy to add you to our community. We are also, we want to make sure that we have sustainable infrastructure. If you've ever worked for ministry or even the nonprofit world, you know that it doesn't always pay super well. So we really want to commit ourselves to paying according to the guidelines that the Synod puts out. Because we want this to be a job that you know not just love, but that you can sustain your life by by working at Shobi's table. So that's something that we really want to commit to. We also love thinking about how we can grow our reach. Do we get a second truck? Do we build a brick and mortar cafe? These are still questions because either of them will require something like a capital campaign. We're not quite ready for that, but we are excited to keep dreaming about what this ministry, how it could grow. Next slide. So how can you help? Come to lunch, it's the biggest one. Like, come to lunch. If you're gonna have a lunch date with someone in the city, choose Shobi's table. It'd be a marvelous way for you to come and stretch yourself to come and sit next to somebody who you might not normally sit next to. But it's also just a great way to have a good lunch and come be in fellowship with us. Next slide. And then also you can volunteer if chopping vegetables for 2 or 3 hours and helping us clean is something that would be exciting to you. We'd love to have you. If you know of other people who would be excited about volunteering, that'd be great. And certainly we covet your prayers and your donations. And then also being invited, like I'm being invited today, to speak to you. If you know of other groups or churches that would benefit from hearing about Shobi's Table, I'd love to share. I also preach, so I'm a deacon, so I'm called to preaching, so I'd love to preach it at your various congregations. Next slide. So this is a new one for us, where we are hoping to really grow our congregational partnerships, and we've learned a lot about fundraising over these last years, and so it's really good when we can kind of show you how we can get to our goal. And one of the ways that we're doing that is we'd love to have some sustaining partners, churches who would be willing to commit to a certain amount every year. So if you can bring this back to your congregation and ask that we be part of your stewardship giving, that would be a huge gift for us. We'd really be able to keep this boat afloat for a long time. Then you'll also see endowment and foundation grants. If your church has a foundation or an endowment that gives away the money that is made from the investments, please let me know. We'd love to apply. Next slide. So with all of that logistical information and stories and who we are, I always like to bring it back down to one of the passages that has been so meaningful to me in this work. So let me read it with you. From John 21. When they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my lambs." A second time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Tend my sheep." He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter felt hurt because he had said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to him, "Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." After this, he said to him, "Follow me." Working at Shobi's Table is an immense privilege for me, that I get to take this command literally, that I get to follow Jesus' call by getting in the kitchen and chopping vegetables and making soup and sandwiches and bringing a meal full of love to the food truck every week. So I invite you into that work together. Next slide. We need you at this table. I would like to invite any questions that you have. Yeah, Sue.
I understand how you work during spring, summer, and fall.
Yeah.
How was winter?
Yes, good question. So we do take off the month of January to tend to all the projects that build up over the whole year. But we have shifted over the years. So during COVID, we just stuck it out and we put the truck to bed because it would get frozen and we couldn't use the water, blah, blah, blah. But we would get in our cars and put all of the food in the cars and bring a table and just be out in the cold for an hour. And it was a lot. So this past year we learned, and we found some partners that would let us be inside. So we have 3 different locations that are inside, and we're still outside on Wednesdays. But yes, we still managed to get out there, even in the cold. Yeah. What else?
Well, we thank you so much for sharing all of your work and knowledge. Thank you for your
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to send this around. If you would like to get our newsletter or any of our mailings, we don't send very many mailings. It's mostly our newsletter. If you would like to fill that out with your email and or physical address, I would love that. And then I also have brochures if you want to pass those around. Thank you so much.
So for our business meeting today, we've already had the greetings from the SWO board, and this year we have gone a different direction. Rather than ask people here if they would be willing to serve, we are just letting you know the needs for next year. And the needs will be cluster coordinator. The St. Paul Area Synod Nomination Committee needs a representative. We do need a hostess for next year in the fall, and we'll be looking for a program. So if anybody has any suggestions for these, please contact us on the board and we'll help you through that. As you can see in your bulletins, we also have the Southeast Cluster churches, their address, phone numbers, and then the other side we have cluster news. So anytime that you have something going on, when we have this meeting, if you do have some cluster news, we'd be happy to put it in for you. You can see that there's a craft and bake sale that's going to be at Luther Memorial Church on November 2nd. The Holiday Heritage Boutique here at Bethesda Lutheran is going to be November 9th. Next year, and this is always a great event to come to, is the Bethesda Lutheran Women's Refresh and Renew Day. They do an awesome job. Spread the word for that because this is well attended and it's a joy to come here. And I do thank Bethesda Lutheran for being willing to put this on every year because I know it takes a lot of work and you guys do a great job. And then again, we have May 3rd, which is going to be the St. Paul Synod Convention being held in Oakdale at Holy Cross. So make sure you take this bulletin with you. Take it back to your churches and spread the word so that we can have a great turnout at these events. And now we're going to say together, does anybody have any news, by the way, just off the hand, anything they want to let us know about? Oh, nice, nice. And this was wonderful, by the way. So I do want to give you a special thanks to Bethesda Women Lutheran Church because not only did they provide the place, but they also provided the continental breakfast for us. And usually that's done by 2 different churches. So, you know, a great special thank you to you guys for stepping forth for this. And that it turned out to be in this room, too. So we didn't have to move. I mean, and that saved a lot of walking. We'll all have to go on walks later on. With that, we'll close with the benediction. Now, Lord, you let your servant go in peace. Your word has been fulfilled. My own eyes have seen salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of every people, a light to reveal you in the nations and the glory of your people Israel. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. Special thanks to you all for coming today. Thank you. Oh, Bethesda Lutheran women would like to ask if a few people are able to help us to put their chairs back in order.